Welcome back to the TFT Galaxies Qualifier for Europe presented by KitKat. My name is still TJ. I wanted to clear things up. We were talking earlier about how there was only one more game needed to win this tournament. Let's take a look at the scoring one more time. If you've joined us in the latter half, the scoring is a little bit different from how things have worked previously. This is the current standings. You can see Double 61 has a little bit of a check mark, kind of a blue Dorito next to his name. That means that he's already scored 18 points. And if he gets one more first place win, he is our champion. That is it. He's the winner of this tournament. Next two players also go to Worlds. If, for some reason, he's not able to win a game ever, he will not win. The next player that gets 18 points gets the same blue check mark, and they will win the tournament if they get one more win. I'm not alone here on the desk. You've got Matt and Witter sitting very respectfully at the bottom of the screen right now. You two did just call that last game. How are you guys feeling? I'll start with you, Matt.
Feeling good, man. That was an absolutely insane game from Double 61, and it's really exciting getting to see how different the finals are feeling from the semis yesterday. One of the big things I'll note is Solo Gasang. Yesterday in the semifinals was looking incredibly clean, incredibly strong, winning round after round. Not top one, but top four solidly almost every time. He has not placed higher than 6 so far. Big difference.
Yeah, I think that's a big pull away. He has had a couple different games where he's hard committed to a composition, and it hasn't worked out. Well, I want to get into that with you, Witter. I'm being told by production we should do some housekeeping, though. If you wondered why we haven't been able to sit on Solo's POV, there are some tech issues that have kept us away, from Double's POV. We are also struggling to get some audio from some of the players. You know, gamers, sometimes they don't click the speaker icon. It'll be fine. We'll sort that out, and we'll try and get you everything coming into these next few games. But if you're wondering why anything's missing, we're not holding it back from you. It's just sometimes the internet doesn't behave. Witter, we were just talking about Solo. He's kind of underperforming here. He's not the only one. Dasik did just improve things with a third-place finish, but that's not where he's supposed to be finishing. He's supposed to be at the top of this leaderboard. What's going on with those two?
I mean, Solo, again, right, when you go into a tournament with such a specific strategy in mind, with the Battlecast, which again is a very stable comp, and generally speaking will net you a pretty good baseline result. Sometimes things just don't go your way, right? And that is kind of what has happened so far, I think. And I think for Dasik specifically, I think that right now he, in the first game, took a bit of a bait, somewhat. Someone might add that he went for the bow start on the Saya and tried to just lean that into Saya carry, specifically because he picked up a lot of Sayas early on. In game 2, however, I just think that he did like what could be expected of him, right? Getting that top 3 and then just didn't really win out in the later stages of the game with the fights, right? Just both Lev and Double just had stronger comps.
So you're going to go to bat for Dasik? You think he's going to clean up his act? That was just a one-off game thing, and we're going to be clean sailing from here on?
That is definitely something that I will definitely stand with, say that Dasik is going to be... I will still hold to my point and say that...
I am hearing words that we're about to get into the game, Matt, as a wrap-up of everything we've seen so far. Again, Double is just one win away from locking the tournament, ending our broadcast day very early. Do you think he's going to do it? And if not, as Witter says he doesn't think he's going to do it, if not, who do you have pegged as the best performer so far?
I don't think it's going to be a very easy top 1 because 1-2-1 is an incredible tournament result, and if he pulls it out, then I expect to see him very far into Worlds. The two players that I want to watch going into this game, though, are the other top 3 players, which is Sweller and Lev. I want to see them going for a solid, consistent top 4 composition so that they can guarantee they make their way to Worlds if it is the win for Double.
Oh, baby, we're on Galactic Armory. This is going to be juicy because Galactic Armory post-rework is one of the highest player agency galaxies in the game.
Yeah, one of the
Tampap
things that I I personally struggle with, gonna be honest, is that you have so many options coming in, and you have this weird dichotomy where it depends on what the items you get. Sometimes they'll signal something very obvious, like if you get a BF sword, chain vest, and a belt, you're like, hey, that's a red buff and like a BF item, maybe this is blasters. Like, oh my god, there's items that could be for mech, that could be for cybers. So do you go for the obvious choice, or do you wait and try and go for something less obvious and be more creative with your components?
I mean, again, that really depends on what you end up getting from the first few rounds as well and what you started with. But having the start here being bow, sword, and a vest is pretty interesting because you can go from everywhere here, right? You can pretty much go every comp in the game here because you have the starts of a time to resolve for the mech, etc. Right? You have Giant Slayer for Jinx, and you have half a red buff as well. Like, there are a lot of things right here that are very open. As we do see Tantop picking up yet another sword. Like, Tantop's opener right here is really interesting for something like Cybernetics.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I think after last game, he's gonna be a little bit more reticent about that Cybernetics comp. He's gonna be like, nope, no, I know how this goes. We gotta try something else.
So bear with me here for a second, okay?
All right.
So Tampop has a Last Whisper and either have a Deathblade or half an IE, right? These are really good, really good setups right here. And again, you can mute all just because you don't want anyone to be able to really annoy you with any chatter going on the screen. Goes for that pre-level again. We'll talk about it last game as well.
Yeah, he really likes that early power, that additional unit on the board, try and get those streaks out earlier, at the very least, some good losses. That's the double Dark Star plus the Chrono, but that level 2 Nocturne means that he's probably just going to stick with the Chrono for now.
All right, this is me, Mac.
Hand of Justice Slam.
Hand of Justice Slam should signal me, Mac, and I'm interested to see if he's going to go for something like a Tangential Solve as well. Doesn't look like it. This could be interesting because this could also be something like a Shaco carry start already.
He is really stacking up that Nocturne window. He wants that early win streak, and he wants it now.
This is also just a way for you to, as a player, just to signalize where you're going to get people to not really like starting to contest you, right? Because now he's signaled that he has the items that he wants to have for his mech, more or less, and then he just has some extra items on the side that he can work with for something like a Jin or a Shaco, right? With that, with the Deathblade. And again, right, Titan's Resolve plus Hand of Justice are two really good items, so they can go pretty much everywhere. But now, look at this, right? This shop right here would be prime material for going for something like Cybernetics, and just like that, he has committed items the wrong way around.
Yeah, it's... I'm going to be honest, I am defending his decision to try and go for not Cybers. He has been so successful with the mech. That's how he got the first place in the first game so far in the finals. I think going for something you know you can be consistent on is incredibly defensible. Worth noting, meant to mention this earlier, but we have had such action-packed games that we did not get the chance. Some players we do not have the POV for, as we mentioned, Double 61 being them. We mentioned that at the top of the break, but also the sound for some of the players will be missing. We'll try and get that resolved as fast as possible, but don't worry, you've got the sonorous sound of our voices to accompany you through these games.
You know, Matt, your voice might as well be music to my ears, right? Who needs the in-game music when I have you?
I'm so flattered, Witta. You're beautiful. This is just a beautiful cast. We're so positive
cue up
here.
the James Bond, guys. Just cue up the James Bond and get it over with.
Swapping in for the 3 Chrono. He's really dedicated to this Chrono here. Gonna try and keep it in there. Maybe pop in another Synergy. Not gonna be able to find it, so just sticking the Ziggs in there for the time being. Trying to figure out what his strongest board is at this point. So Tampop on the win streak already. Hopefully we'll be able to keep it up here.
Just insta pre-levels as well, just knowing that he is 100% of the time going to be going in very, very hard here, just trying to hit that mech as early as possible. And again, right, just maximizing your chances rather, sorry, and going up for that. I think that's definitely very, very fine here, but will be losing his win streak to double.
Yeah, double, incredibly strong start here. The Poppy, as we mentioned earlier, surprisingly strong, especially when you stack those items on her. Probably going to be swapped out for a Nico once that's found, but in the meantime, incredibly, incredibly strong board start. Less so for Tan Pop, but he has the items he needs to go into his famed mech. Let's see if he can keep it up.
And again, this cares a lot of the people are just going to be going for the items that they want to go for here. Dasik going for a bow might signal that he's up to something again, because like this could be a Yi game for him, right? Because he has a lot of points to make up for after the first game. Obviously, the second game really did help him out, but let's see where this goes.
Hey, I'm surprised we've only seen the Six Blade Master once. I know we've only had 2 games so far, but at least in NA, there's at least one person going it every single tournament, every single round.
I mean, that's because you have mismatch sucks, just forcing it every game, right? Like, mismatch sucks just a player that he is very much like, okay, I am super flexible, you have to be good to play everything in the game. But we're at tournament stage, I am 20 out of 20. I'm just going to be playing that Yi comp for the most of the game, right? And I think that's a very valid thing to do. But again, you see a Yi in shop when they played. So let's just nitty gritty it really quickly. Yi is a very specific thing because you need to have 3 bows in your opener. And they got 1 from the Galactic Armory. Then you need another one to get the RFC going. And then you need another one to get the Runan's Hurricane. And that can sometimes be a little bit of a hard one to really muster, because if you are contested on the bows, because again, Jinx comes for like bows, Dark Stars, like bow is a really contested item and a component that really is just like really, really hard to sometimes get going. You will sometimes just see people falling flat because they cannot get those bows.
Yeah. Sweller, though, not having that problem, has the Giant Slayer plus the Last Whisper. Rotating back to Dasik, he is looking for that Blade Master Yi. Has the RFC already, needs a second or third bow, rather. It's very convenient.
He's at the point where he just doesn't care anymore. Like, when you have an early Yi and you already have the bow start in this regard, right? And the thing about the items that they got from the armory here is that they also align incredibly well with the rest of the Blade Master composition, right? So for Dasik right now, as long as he can prioritize getting Yi items for the rest of the game, itemizing his secondary carries is going to be incredibly easy for him because the game just provided them for him.
Yeah, you can itemize the Zed, you can itemize the Riven if you get AP items. There's a lot of ways you can work with this composition in terms of secondary carries. But again, the big primary thing that we were talking about, you need that third bow for the Runons, because without it, you kind of don't get to do damage to an entire team. One at a time is a way to get through a comp eventually, but as we saw earlier on in the tournament in that first round, things like the mech, things like protectors are what Yi really struggles against, especially even with the Runons. So without it, there's no way this composition goes well. See what he gets off this. We'll find the belt so far. Come on, he's looking for a bow. Not going to find it. That could be the Shojin for something like the Yasuo if you just want those ults popping off.
So Shojin, but also something like Redemption is really good for the most part for that Shen frontline once that starts coming in most of the time. So interesting to see that like the econ game right here from also you could also just go for Seek's Herald and just really start pumping up that attack speed. But again, looking at how what Dasik is doing right now, is he's ready to sell this Fiora. I'm almost 100% sure if he is to win next round. Like, he is ready to do that if it's necessary. As he picks up a brawler and is not going to make 40.
Let's see how he's going to do against double. Still has that composition. Frontline Mordekaiser going to be his carrier for the items for now. Still has not found that Nico. Plenty of damage on the Mord, but not enough tankiness to keep him alive for the time being. GA pops, and the Yi has to shred through this composition if Dasik wants to keep this going. Unfortunately for him, Ahri's going to take him out.
Yep, as we're moving perspectives.
Valtarix going for the Vanguard Mystic here. Oh, picks up the Victor. That's a really good find early. So we actually we had a discussion about this last night, I think, about Vanguard Mystics. A lot of players now, instead of going for just the Cassiopeia carry, are flexing in a Victor. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so something that I also kind of touched upon in the previous game that we watched is that Vanguard Mystics, Cassio's damage output has a pretty hard limit, right? While if you use the same items onto Victor, Victor will just end up doing a lot more damage, but it looked like he ended up selling the Victors and not going for them regardless.
Oh.
Okay, interesting. So that's like one of the newest schools of thought that you can do with Vanguard Mystic is just going for that Victor carry instead of the Cassiopeia. But again, if you just want to go fully old school and going for the Cassio again, it's definitely not a bad idea to do so.
Do you think that was just so he could hit Econ, or is he just going to stick with the Cassiopeia the whole way?
I think because of the fact that there was already a Cassio pair on, like he had a Cassio pair already, like Cassiopeia 2 is going to do more damage than Victor 1 will for a very, very long time. And also just the fact that at level 6, you're looking to just show off your synergies a lot more often with the Vanguards and the Mystic. And Victor will come in and sort of mess that up because he doesn't provide the Mystic, so you'll lose the magic resistance, which will effectively make your entire board a lot weaker in terms of just being able to resist those spells coming out from your opponent. And Cassio with these items right now will most definitely do a truckload of damage.
Well, we can see that she's already pumping out a little bit. Has to find the time to ult everyone there. The cyber start there from Magarki, holding on pretty admirably for the time being, but this Vanguard front line incredibly strong. Cassiopeia, though, free firing onto the Lucian. We'll take him down. Voltairix in a much better position than he was earlier.
Double is still in first place again, win streaking.
That's a fawn.
I mean, that man is on fire.
Come on. All right. I was so scared for a second. I was like, he's got to take it, right? Voltairix. It's one of the things that pro players do that I never have the confidence to is like bait with the items. Like, oh, am I going to go for it? Huh? Meanwhile, when I do that, I end up missing the item. I'm like, oh, I meant to get the tier, and now I have a cloak. Fantastic.
It's like you just end up playing stupid games, and you just win the ultimate stupid prize of just getting that Negatron cloak.
Yeah.
And I think,
what am I going to do? Have another Dragon Claw or something? It's so funny because I love listening to pro players talk about the cloak because you're like, hey, one cloak's good. Two cloaks can be kind of good because you can go for like declaw, but then when you have a third cloak, you just kind of want to go next. There's nothing you can do with it unless you go like Dragon Claw Spark or like Triple Zephyr, which admittedly would be hilarious, but probably pretty bad.
Yeah, I want to touch on something here with Sol Lev, right? He had the opportunity of going for more offensive items of the carousel, starting to pick up those items to itemize his second carry here. And he ended up going for the tier just to get that redemption off. And the thing about cybernetics is that a lot of the time you actually rely a lot more on your utility items more than your specific carry items, because cybernetic as a composition, it doesn't do anything fancy. Your units just have more stats. And the way that you get those stats to shine is in making the fights go longer, right? Or just ensuring that your units stay alive longer than your opponents.
Unfortunately, has not worked out for Lev just yet. But it did save him a little bit of time, get him a little bit of extra damage. Has the double blaster in as well. For a second, I was like, what's Graves doing in there? And I figured it out. I'm with it. The 6-Blade Master has not hit just yet, as we saw, but did find the Rabadon's death cap. Worth noting, because that is a big power spike. Oh no, it's the double cybers again. We saw how this went before. Not great was the result. So whichever cyber player wins here, I suspect may force the other one to pivot out, because we've already seen what contested cybers can do.
I mean, so the thing about cybernetics as a composition, and I think it's going to be a little bit more stable in a Galaxy where the entire lobby also isn't high rolling, like we saw previously, is that Cybers as a composition can actually support like 2 to 3 people, with that emphasis being on 2 for the most part, right? And that can both place and do relatively well. And I think that it's not entirely over for Megaki just yet. And again, right around this 4-1 breakpoint is where we'll see these compositions starting to kind of shape up in a way that will end up really like showcasing where these comps will go. But either player is still yet to find Aurelia, and Aurelia as a unit right now is just giga contested because you also have the 6 Blademaster compositions in general going for that Aurelia just to show off their synergies.
I'm going to be honest, Witta. That's a fantastic point, but the only thing I was thinking about that entire time was that Double 61 has slapped items on the Riven. I really want to see a Riven carry. I know it's not great. I know it's not great right now. After the nerfs, doesn't do a whole lot, but come on, it's so cool!
Riven carry is actually all right. Like, so the thing is that Riven carry is not going to be a unit that will take you throughout the late game, but as a mid-game sort of frontline damage option, Riven can actually do a lot of work these days, and I've had a lot of success with doing that myself as well, both in 6 Blademaster, but also in other comps. And a lot of people have also like started to pick up on Riven as a unit again. Obviously, she's not at the release of 3.5 power level anymore, but she's still definitely a very, very strong unit once she gets a little bit of items to just start helping her go longer.
That makes me feel a little bit better. I appreciate that. Tan Pop is not feeling too great after that loss. Has found the mech at the very least, so we've seen that that's the pivot he's working towards. Has the items, just needs the Fizz to finish it off. USS is probably going to be pulled off that Mordekaiser onto the mech, right?
Yeah, I think that right now what he's doing is he's trying to hold on here and trying to find that Fizz, but again, no Fizz, no party kind of is the name of the game right here. Like, there is really nothing that can really go right, and he's trying to figure out what the last unit he's going to be putting in is, right? And it's going to be that Aurelian Sol, and it's a kind of a rough spot for Tanpop right now, because if he doesn't find this Fizz very, very soon, he'll be in a lot of trouble. But again, look at the power of that Rumble.
Yeah, it did a whole lot of damage as well as we just saw, but it gets nuked out almost immediately. So if they can find that Fizz that they're so sorely missing, it'll be a way back into the game. But in the meantime, Lev just smashing through.
And double lost round. This could be very big for the overall perspective of the entire game. The fact that double is no longer win streaking.
He is the player to beat. You know, you need to keep him away from that first place. And really, if you can keep him away from the second place, it doesn't hurt either, because that'll help your chances to be in that top 3 when there is a winner decided. The roll down on 4-3 coming out here for Solo Gasang. He's actually not going for Battlecast, instead pivoting into the Jinx carry. Something we've seen him do in solo queue quite a bit, but have yet to see really in that tournament setting. Semifinals, as we mentioned, was entirely Battlecast.
Not necessarily, right? Because during the initial rounds, Solo actually did do this once, where he went Rebels instead of going into pure Battlecast. And what he's doing here is probably not necessarily going to be a full Rebel comp. This is going to be a four Brawler frontline for the most part here, I would assume, and then just sort of starting to add in those, like the GP and the Aurelian Sol moving to late game instead. Because right here, he's not really been playing for 6 Rebels, meaning that the transition here can become quite hard for him to really put off. Because the thing about the Rebel transition is that you have to hold a lot of mediocre units on the bench. And with Yi being a very consistent unit as well right now, with the Yasuo pair as well, like, it can be quite hard for you to find those 6 Rebels and have them at a decent enough level in terms of the starring, because the Rebels are just kind of being taken away because they're just a good synergy in a lot of other comps right now.
And that's why I'm kind of worrying here for the side of Solo Gasang, because as we saw, he rolled down entirely on that 4-3, hit the level 8, found almost everything he was looking for, still ended up losing. So his way back into this game is going to be a bit of a rough climb. With his earlier finishes, 7th place and 6th place, not a fantastic start for him.
But ain't no mountain is high enough. He's going to get there, right? You know, just... gotta find the right music.
That's the attitude I like to hear. Yeah, he's got it. We believe in him.
I am not gonna sing because that's gonna hurt people's ears. But yeah, you just gotta listen to those school bangers and just get going, you know?
The way to do it. That's why the audio is off for some of the players. They're listening to bangers like that. Hey, there's the ribbon. Double 61 going to be losing that ribbon pretty quickly, actually. Never mind. I was really excited about that, and it just did not work out. It's a lot of damage coming out from Lev Cyber's composition. Will shut down double 61 and continue that 5-round win streak. After the roll down, Lev looking to be doing fantastically. And this is important because Lev is currently in second place overall. This would put him over that 18-point threshold.
Most definitely would, and I think that a lot of other secondary placements for Lev would end up doing it. But again, right, I've been touting Lev as one of those cyber players that are just really, really good at playing cybers. And again, he's just showing like his ability to finesse the transitions and just itemizing properly, and again, just like overall playing quite well here. And I think that's going to be very, very important as we move into the later stage of the game, because cybernetics as a comp really requires you to have really, really, really good basics understanding of the game, because you need to be able to position correctly.
Yeah, and so far, so good on that front. I mean, it's looking like another good start to the round for him. Running into another cyber player, of course, that is going to be Magarki. Has found the force of nature, which is giving a lot of board strength, but both these veins are doing a whole lot of damage, and Levs will still win out despite Magarki having the unit advantage. Not exactly a great sign.
Do you know what's a great sign, though? Watching 6 battlecasts. Or Blade Master, you know, watching 6 battlecasts has been pretty sad this tournament, but exciting it, however, is to watch these Blade Masters just pop off. And you can see right now something that's actually pretty interesting is that due to the nature of the game so far here for Basic, he's actually kind of been running with this Aurelian Sol over the set, because he hasn't had a Blade Master spat open up to him just yet, because he's been itemizing those early Sols a lot differently.
Still no sword.
Is there a unit that we could that Basic actually could just rebel spat here? Or no, mind, Infiltrator spat Aurelia is actually a lot better. And this is actually a different way for this comp to sort of pop off. So I've been playing this comp quite a bit recently, just to test it out, just to try to figure out how it actually functions. Mm-hmm. And obviously your first priority for a spat will always be Blade Master spat for set, but getting that Infiltrator spat Aurelia online is always really strong, because she gets those Blade Master procs on the back end of things right as well. So I think this is going to be a very good omen here for Dasik, because I really thought it's going to provide massive utility in the backline.
So I'm wondering then if Dasik wants to hunt down that Zed one more time. Already sold it for the time being, and he's doing okay without it. But if you get that Zed, you get the Infiltrator buff back. Dasik not really needing the buff, though. Takes out Magarki.
Dasik will be looking to go 8 here, and then he'll be looking to add in most likely the Fizz or an Echo, and then that way around we'll be able to splash in the Infiltrator stuff right here. Because right now, I think it's beyond redemption for the set. I think that the set right here is not really going to be able to provide a whole lot of extra ability. Again, like we have seen so many Infiltrator spats today, right? We have another one on an Aurelia this game. Like in 2 games, we've seen like 5 Infiltrator spats.
Yeah. Well, it's because it's so strong on Aurelia, right? If you can ever get the spat with the Infiltrator onto Aurelia, suddenly she's such a more powerful unit. One of her weaknesses is being melee and really not doing great into frontline, because her damage is based on just getting that spell reset. So having the Infiltrator spat does so much for her. Dasik going to be taken out by double 61, who's running Astro Snipers. And despite a slightly rough early start, still hanging in there with 31 HP. This is a fairly close lobby down towards the middle and bottom half.
So Astro Snipers as a comp is something that you'll find yourself having a little bit of a rough time sometimes transitioning to, as we do see a massive hit here for Dasik. Because you need to like hold a lot of specific set of units, you need some specific set of items, but again, Double actually played a lot of Astro Snipers yesterday in the semis, played 3 games of Astro Snipers and placing top 4 on all of them. So it's definitely a comp that he knows the ins and outs of.
His has been found there for Dasik, so maybe subbing that one in. As soon as he hits that level 8, does not have the gold for it just yet, though, and there goes Sweller Tiger on the Cybers. We've got a lot of Cybers this lobby. This is actually kind of silly. we'll be finding a lot of damage from that vein.
So, but it goes back to the point that I was talking. It goes back to the point I was talking about how you'll see Cypress being like pretty supportable for a specific amount of players, right? And Free being the absolute critical max here. And with the items given, you'll have a lot more items that you can kind of use to bridge the gap of, you know, like having a little bit more of a stable early to mid game. But now, full item carousel, it's time for some big boy action.
Protector Spat. Don't know how well it's going to do for any of the players in our lobby right now. Nobody really going for it, but a generally strong item. Basic just going to be looking for the Zephyr. I actually really like that pickup because with good scouting, it can give you a whole lot of power, especially for the Yeet. You know, a problem you have on Yi is you can't really shred through front lines, but if you just Zephyr that front line away, get to the back line faster.
And now Lev is in a little bit of trouble because he already has one red buff, and he was really looking to get that Zeke's Herald out because he wouldn't be able to provide some attack speed for the rest of his composition. But it's not going to be the case. And look at just how strong and how powerful Voltaires has been throughout this game because of the fact that early Force of Nature we're talking about. And now he has 10 units to work with, meaning he can keep hold of this Casio for a long time while just sort of jamming in like really good 5-cost units. Like I see, it's already starting to pivot in that Aurelion Sol, and we'll most likely be looking to add something like Urgot, etc. at the later stage of the game.
Yeah, put in the Urgot, could maybe swap out the Cassiopeia for Victor if he feels like it, but seems like he just wants to stick to that cast for now. The slow burn AoE damage, but AoE damage nonetheless. And he is incredibly strong, as you mentioned, still has 12 gold after hitting 9 at 5-5. So that is a ton of econ that he's had this entire game. Magarki will try and hold on with the Fawn of his own. Vayne, last one standing, will not be enough, and Magarki will be knocked out. 8th place there. Tan popped down to 1 HP as well off that round.
Yes, and just to see here that 2 Echoes are being held on bench right now. Something that you can do that also was pretty much like tested quite a lot was actually going for a quote-unquote like infiltrator carry like backline action as well in Vanguard Mystic Core. You see right now he's holding both. He was holding both the Fizz as well as the Echo on bench, which is worth noting.
Did he finally find the mech? He did. All right. Tampop off to a good start, but that Mana Reaver was so crucial there. The ultimate from the mech not going to be enough. Did not roll healing. Things are looking rather rough for our mech player. There goes Tanpop, no longer 1 HP. Now down to -12, and that will be his 7th place finish.
Yep, not looking too good for Tanpop. Has had a little bit of a rough couple of games right here after winning the first one. In very uncharacteristic fashion. But again, it's worth noting that we are at the pinnacle of European TFT, right? These guys have been going through other lobbies throughout the past 2 weeks, and now they are but they're with creme de la creme, right? And sometimes things just do not go your way.
Yeah, and for a lot of these players so far, has not been. Tampop, usually, you know, after the first round, I was expecting very strong mech play coming out consistently, but the consistency just wasn't there this game. Did not hit the Fizz early enough and got punished off the back of that. So going forward, Tanpop may need to change his strategy a little bit because that doesn't really seem to be working as consistently as he'd like.
Again, I was interested to see how people they prefer to play their 4 brawler to blast the cores here, right? And we can see that with the earlier on Soulfind, looks like Solo is just trying to figure out if there's anything better that he can put in, and I think it's not really going to be an option for him. But again, it's looking pretty fine. He dodges the Zephyr here, very important. However, look at that. I really ready to just jump the backline.
Yeah, it's looking like I think this is a rather weak board here for Solgusan, but if he can get this kill down onto the Riven, gets the reset, lots of AoE damage coming down, but that Yi is massive. And there goes Solo Gusang, a 6th place finish.
Just see here, Double might be the next one to follow here. This could have massive implications for the tournament. And Double is out. We're going to game 4 at least here.
Fourth game has been secured. And wow, that lobby went crazy real quick. Sweller down in the 6th place. Solo Gasong down for 5th. Double in 4th.
Matt, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Do you know what's better than TFT?
That would.
Even more TFT.
You're so right. I was like, where's he going with that? There's nothing better than TFT. And you were like, more TFT. Expanded my brain today. Thank you for that. Voltairix trying to expand his win, though. Expand the lead here. The Yi 3 from Dasic is incredibly terrifying, though. Just ripping through the front line. But the Cassiopeia is still safe in the back line. Yi has to quite literally, I think, 1v8, 1v9? Lots of numbers. There's Voltairix going to be able to take him down. Lev, last one standing. Could be.
No, it's not. Right, Lev is still alive. But it was looking quite close there for a second. And now, issue here is that for Lev is on the cybernetic setup, right? And 6 Vanguards, nigh on killable, 900 extra armor, even with the reduction of 75 coming through from Last Whisper, you're still looking at a little like we're looking at like 250 extra armor or something. It's ridiculous. And Lev has no bench, no Janna, nothing. Like, this is going to be a really rough one before we go into this fight. And it's just because, like, this is how the matchup goes. And that's the tech that the cybernetic players can go for, is going for that Janna late game. As you see, Lev puts it in chat. He already knows what's about to hit him.
Maybe able to find it, though. The Aurelia's onto the Cassiopeia. Just one more auto. We'll take her out. It's a lot of damage down here from the side of Voltairix, so there is a chance that Lev can win through. The Vayne's still alive in the backline, but that Aurelian Soul is doing so much. Vayne, come on, retarget. You've got it. There's one more. But another A-Soul gets pulled in. The doubles are going to be there, and now Lev gets taken down by Voltairix with his first place finish.
A big win for Voltairix, and I'm very excited because, Weta, we've accomplished your goal. More teamfight tactics. Matt, I was kind of shocked in that game for Tanpop, who has looked really good across the day. That was a second rough finish as the mech force didn't come through. We were talking earlier about how single forces are really rough in a competitive lobby. Do you think he's maybe hitting the limits of his comp?
I don't think he's hitting the limits so much as that was a very early transition into most of the mech units without a fizz. There are very strong items that you put on the mech. There's the Hand of Justice. There is, the Titan's Resolve, and those can be very strong items in the mid game. However, if you don't have the fizz, you don't get the mech, and that's a lot of the power of this composition. The reason he was successful game 1 is he waited until he had all the mech units for that transition. However, he transitioned too early. As a result, got punished for it with a 7th place finish.
We also, I want to call out, have a new victor at the top of the board. Voltairix getting those early Vanguards and then the Force of Nature. You literally could not wish for a better start in the tournament game, Weta.
No, most definitely not. And it's kind of funny, right? Because a lot of people will find that Force of Nature, as a general speaking item, will be quite skewing of how the game is supposed to be played out, right? Because you start defying the laws of the game. And when one player gets that far, it kind of becomes interesting. And the fact that they're like now expected to kind of just go on a win streak throughout the rest of the game. And especially potent when you get them off late stage carousels. But what happened here in this situation specifically for Voltairix was that he got it early enough. He was able to, he had so much time to plan out his late game that there was no way that he would ever make a mistake. Because he got that extra unit in already, and then he didn't have as many mental things to think about during the game for transitioning, because he just had everything on board already, so you could just safely go for level 9 and roll down there and just finish off his comp.
We are waiting for that scoreboard. I'm going to introduce chat, though. This is Miss Mary. She's having a bit of a rough day. It has been thunder and lightning all morning, so I'm not holding her for a fact. I'm holding her because she'd be yelling otherwise. I keep trying to explain to her that yelling isn't going to make the thunder go away. She doesn't believe me. Let's take a look at the scoreboard. We do now, I believe, have 2 players, maybe more, ready to win the game. That is both Double and Lev, who are eligible. If they get a single first place finish, they are your EU qualifiers champions. We take the scoreboard as it currently stands.
So I think
Matt,
coming into this next game. Oh, sorry.
sorry.
Uh, this next game, I want to see a lot more offensive compositions coming in from the 2 leaders on the board, which would be Double and Lev. I want to see things that are first or eighth because you have enough points at the moment. You have, at the very least, a 4-point lead on the next person for Lev's case, and that's a 6-point lead for Double. So you know that you are safely in the top 3 for at least the next round. If you want to make your way to Worlds and guarantee that spot, the best way to do that is the first or eighth composition, something like Space Pirates, something like Yi, something like Piba, that if it gets to the late game, it guarantees that number 1 finish. So I want to see that strategic adaptation come out from those 2 players.
More first or eighth comps. I'm super excited. Last note, before we do head towards that break, Witter, we have seen an abundance of cybernetics. We're prepping for the new game coming out. Tell me, is there going to be as many cyborgs in the future? Have we kind of hit maximum cyborg? Are people going to start scaling away from it because everyone seems to be investing in it? Or what's going on now?
So in this game specifically, there was so many good item components for cybernetics that it was very easy to like make the transition, just slam the items that was ready to go for. And also the fact that we have a lot of really potent cybernetics players in the lobby itself. Like Double has played a lot of cybers in the initial rounds. Lev as well, well known for playing cybers. Like there are just so many people here that have cybers as an ace up their sleeves. And when they get the opportunity to go for it, and they know they can find the very, very stable items, they are just gonna go for it and just say, you know what, I'm better at you at this comp. I'm just gonna slam everything into the ground.
Unfortunately, so far, I've been unimpressed by all but one cybernetic, that of course being Double in the previous game. We're going to go to a quick break, 5 minutes on the clock, then we're back. 2 players now eligible to end our broadcast day and lock in the qualifications for TFT Galaxies. Don't go far, the EU final will continue after this.